Hello, everyone. Welcome to the course. My name is Dan Tui. I am your teacher for this course, fully online, asynchronous course here in the fall of 2023 at Drexel. This will be a thematic course introduction, overview. That is, I'll tell you what we'll actually be reading and why. As you can see here in the introductory section of the Blackboard site, there is a practical course tour, which actually talks about what you need to do for the course, what the requirements are, how the Blackboard site is arranged, and everything like that. So please make sure to watch that as well. This course, I'm not even sure what it's called. Is it called Ethics and Digital Technology or something like that? It used to be called Computer Ethics, and that I think was fine. And you can think of it as digital ethics or computer ethics or digital ethics is fine. And let me tell you the approach that I'm taking, which is important to know because the course is actually structured in a particular way, and you'll see what I mean when we go through it. Digital ethics or computer ethics, I take it to be looking at ethical challenges that the world, everyone, that we're faced with because of the emergence of digital technology. Digital technology, since World War II, invention of the first digital computer. There were analog computers before that. Digital technology and its gradual development in the past 70 or 75 years has transformed our world. And what I'm interested in this course is looking at some of the issues involving computer ethics or digital technology, and especially what sort of ethical tools we have to deal with those issues. So, if you look at the course outline here, you'll see that some of the weeks we will be focusing on particular issues in our world, developments in our world that have been made possible by digital technology. That is, things like autopilot, things having to do with social media, question of the singularity, the effects of surveillance. But by that I mean really digital surveillance, and a couple of things here about different things about social media and the idea of interveillance, which I'll explain. These are issues in contemporary computer ethics or contemporary digital ethics. But you'll see that the course is structured really into two parts. The first week, we will not be talking about digital issues at all. We'll be just looking at traditional ethical decision making models, which basically means Kantianism and utilitarianism. As ethical decision making models, that is, frameworks for actually deciding the ethics of certain issues. And we will be employing or seeing if we can employ those frameworks, utilitarianism and Kantianism, to a couple of issues in digital ethics. The issues of autopilot, basically self driving vehicles, and the more particular issue of something that happened about a decade ago at Facebook concerning a social psychology experiment that they unknowingly or unknowingly to their users performed on their users to gauge emotional response to the kind of posts that they found in their Facebook feed. So you can think of part one of the course as just, well, here's a couple of moral theories that give us very handy decision making frameworks for deciding the issues, what's going on in the issue. And that's week one, which is, again, Kantianism and utilitarianism. Wednesday, 27th, we're looking at Kant. And then Friday, we're looking at utilitarianism. Very basic and very quick and dirty introductions to these moral theories. We're not going to go in depth into moral theory. It's just, well, we're going to get what we need out of it, which is a certain way of dealing with moral issues by applying certain precepts. And that's what we'll do for the first few weeks of the course, we'll look at the issue of autopilot, and we'll look at the issue of the Facebook experiment. And, that's one way of approaching digital ethics, saying, well, we have moral theories that provide us with moral decision making frameworks. Let's apply them to typical issues or to some issues that are specifically having to do with digital technology. When I choose the issues, things like autopilot, things like the singularity, things like the modern surveillance, I'm choosing them on the basis of, well, these are things that emerge in our world which would not be possible without digital technology. There's always been surveillance, but digital surveillance moves us into a new world. Um, there's always been the problem of the dangers of automobiles, other technologies, but the idea of autopilot or self-driving vehicles moves us into a new thing. So that's the criterion that I use to pick these issues. They have to be issues that have emerged because of digital technology and wouldn't be with us in the form that they are unless we had digital technology. So the first few weeks of the course is just, well, here's some traditional moral theories. Let's maybe use them to gain some insight into these issues in digital ethics. And then comes week 4, the Jonas thesis. And that is my name for the particular thesis that is proposed by Hans Jonas in his 1973 essay, uh, Technology and Responsibility, the New Task of Ethics. It really will. This is the turning point in the course, because what we'll see is that Jonas believes that traditional ethics, including Kantianism and utilitarianism, but all religious and philosophical accounts of human ethics, that these have, to a certain extent, been made obsolete by the power of modern technology. He didn't have. I mean, he wasn't specifically thinking of computers or digital technology. He was thinking of all sorts of things, especially nuclear weapons and the effects of industrial production on the environment. But he was certainly thinking of digital ethics too. But generally, in a holistic way, he thought we had reached a certain turning point in human history where the power of our technology had outstripped the conceptual framework of our traditional ethics, a traditional way of thinking about good and evil and right and wrong, which is a very daring and important, I don't know if it's true, his thesis, but it's a very daring and if true, a very important thesis, not only in moral philosophy, but in the history of our species. So we'll take a week to read Jonas's essay, and then we'll take a fresh look at more issues in digital technology, and I would say more challenging and issues that tend to perhaps give some credence to the Jonas thesis because they do perhaps stretch the boundaries of our moral imagination in a way that the first 2 issues didn't. Is at least my impression, and certainly the singularity, and we'll find out what that is if you don't know. The idea of the emergence of a true artificial intelligence, and it's very quickly developing into a super intelligence, certainly is the kind of, I mean, maybe a lot of people would say that that's science fiction and it won't happen, but if it were to happen, it would certainly be the kind of event technologically in the development of human technology which changes everything, and which clearly um, we may be at some loss ethically in terms of our traditional way of dealing with ethical questions. And that it may be that Jonas is right. And looking at digital surveillance, and especially looking as an example, the Chinese surveillance state, the way that China has carved out or pioneered a kind of a use of digital technology in a totalitarian country to bring surveillance of its people, and especially we'll see the Uyghur population in a region of China, the ethnic minority Uyghurs, brought it to a level which is on a different level than surveillance really ever has been, at least the potential of it. And then finally, looking at the effects of social media and looking at the possibilities for social media being a kind of new form of surveillance called interveillance. So the issues in the latter part of the course, the singularity, digital surveillance, and especially interveillance, are really other sort of boundary pushing issues. So really, this is what the course is about. You may just think of it as, well, it's looking at issues in digital ethics, which it certainly is. But it's kind of sort of a meta ethical sort of looking at, not just looking at issues, but thinking about how we should look at issues with the introduction of the Jonas thesis. And the underlying idea is we're going to need to make decisions about whether Jonas is right. And digital technology, again, he wasn't thinking specifically of digital technology, but certainly digital technologies are right in there with what he was talking about. We have to make certain decisions as individuals, as a society, whether he's right, and we have to develop a new ethics to meet our new situation. That's what essentially the course is about, and then your final essay will be your take on it, your decision on it, your judgment about whether Jonas is right. That is, this is sort of what the whole course is leading up to for you, is just to write this final essay in which you decide whether or not he's right. That is, whether or not our old ways of making moral decisions have been, to some extent at least, made obsolete by the developments of modern technology, in this case, modern digital technology. So that would be, so your capstone project for this course is just to write a 4-page essay in which you state your opinion on that question. So that's what the course is about. I find it fascinating. I am not. I am a, I'm a philosophy guy. I am not a computer guy, a computer person. I don't know a lot about computer technology in the actual way that it works. That's not my field. My field is philosophy, moral philosophy, ethics. But I find the whole question, especially the Jonas thesis, to be fascinating. I enjoy teaching the course, and I hope that you get something out of it. At the very least, it'll be interesting.